Morning, everybody, or afternoon, as it now is. Thank you for coming to this session, which I think is going to be very interesting. A year ago, President Xi of China visited Manchester and was shown artifacts from the National Football Museum, where many of you will have spent a very pleasant time last evening. It was a landmark visit which attracted worldwide media attention and served as the launch pad for a new Chinese government strategy to become a football superpower by 2050. It seems longer than a year ago, that state visit, but we've been through one Prime Minister and two England national team managers since then, so time flies. Whenever China and football are mentioned in the same sentence, it's often in the context of the acquisition of an English or European club. But what do we actually know about the domestic football landscape in China and how they're planning to fulfill their president's ambitions? What is the relationship between the professional and grassroots games in China? How can the independent sector work with government to establish the infrastructure and resources that will be required? I'm delighted that here to help us answer these questions and many more are three people who've agreed to share their insight and knowledge. Charles Li is Director of the Marketing Department at the Chinese Football Association. Molly Mo is Director of International Affairs at Ali Sports, part of the mighty Alibaba organization. And Reese Fan is CEO of Soccer World, who are a privately owned business rolling out soccer centers and academies across Europe. Please welcome our guests to the stage. Thank you, Charles. Something here. Molly, the middle. Yeah. Reese, I'm going to shake your hand before I desert you. Thank you very much. Please take a seat.
Thank you.
Welcome all, and thank you very much for being here today. Football is the most watched sport in China and the fourth highest participant sport after running, basketball and badminton. But pitches and resources have been scarce. Equally, the Chinese television audience for Premier League football alone is in excess of 350 million people. Charles, I really want to ask you if you've got any advice for the FA about appointing the next manager, but sticking to the script, I wonder if you could please, as Marketing Director of the Chinese Football Association, give us an insight into the football landscape in China and the role of the CFA.
Okay, so thank you for the question. So at first, maybe I correct you the number. So the number for the CSL audience, TV audience last year actually is 410 million.
That's for the Premier League audience in China?
Not Premier League, sorry,
no,
CSL.
That's a CSL audience
CSL.
outside of China. Yeah. Okay.
Chinese Super League.
So I accept that I've been outgunned there already. Thank you.
So maybe that's the number for the year 2014.
Okay.
So the number for last year is 410 million. So, just now you mentioned the CFA and also the football landscape. I think maybe first we should think of the football reform in China. I believe most of the people here in this room know something about the football reform in China. In year 2014, the government issued the master plan for the football reform. And this year we have two following plans. One is the mid and long-term plan for the football reform, and also the other one is the construction, the plan for the construction of football pitches. So we have two plans follow. Thinking of the football reform, I think maybe I need to share something what is happening here in China. The government now is paying much more attention on the health and wellness of the people, and also paying much more attention on the environment and ecology. And thinking of the economy, then now China is shifting from the first industry to the third industry, so the so-called no-smoke industry. So that comes the not only football but sports. So I think that's the year 2013. The government issued a proposal or a plan to develop football industry, and not only the football industry, but they say a second part is to stimulate the sports consumption in China. So the second part is, I think, is more important than the first part. That means people...
So you mean football participation in China?
Yeah. That means people need to not only to watch sports, but to experience themselves. So I think that's the important part. That's to improve the health condition of the people, and also thinking of the one-child policy. Then some parents, maybe they do not want their kids to have any danger or well protected, actually. And many of the kids, we have numbered something like 40% of the primary school students wear glasses, and even around 90% in the middle school students wear glasses. So that's, I think, something very bad.
But I'm aware that the NBA has had a very active campaign in terms of exploiting the Chinese market for at least 35 years. So presumably those conditions also apply with basketball in terms of children wearing spectacles.
Yeah.
And the health and safety point generally, because a ball flying around is a ball flying around, although I accept people kick footballs maybe a little bit harder.
In China, I think why we say football, actually not only football, but we say football, basketball, and volleyball. That's the team events. So just now I mentioned the one-child policy. Then people, especially for this generation, they need to know how to share and how to work together. So I think that's also something why the government is putting some certain importance on the team sports.
Right. So an emphasis on team sports, but there's been a reluctance in terms of the evolution of football in schools because of a health and safety worry apart from anything else. And this is largely because there haven't been formal facilities for playing football, and kids have been playing in the school playground or on the basketball court where it's been deemed to be unsafe.
I think maybe if some students get injured, then they'll say the school has
Yes.
to...
Yes, the compensation culture is emerging in China as well.
Now the government also pay, in the reform plan, we also say the insurance is very important. Not only compensated by the school, but by the insurance companies. So that's something we need to improve. Yeah.
Thank you, Charles. I'll come back to you in a moment because I'm fascinated to put some data and statistics around the medium and long-term plans. Molly, if I could come to you, my first experience of football in China was in 2009 when Hull City were playing in the Barclays Asia Trophy along with Spurs and West Ham, hosted by Beijing Guang at the Workers' Stadium. And I've been back to China frequently on business ever since and watched the progress with great interest. Perhaps you could tell us about Ali Sports and where they are positioned.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Please call me Paul.
Yeah, nice to meet you, Paul. I was wondering, first of all, it's a really honor to be here at this forum. And I was curious, like, how many of you out there know about Alibaba as a company? Awesome. Nice. How many of you know Ali Sports? fewer hands. I like that. That's exactly what I like to share with you. Ali Sports is a company created by Jack Ma, or Ali Sports Group, Alibaba Group, as its sports arm, in response to what Paul mentioned earlier about the President Xi's push for the sports soccer movement and everything in China. So Ali Sports was established in 2015, September. We just celebrated our 1-year anniversary. And what it does, there are a lot of people who come to me at the Soccerex as well as previous in China, like, what does Ali Sports do? Like, exactly what are you in relationship to Alibaba? So I think it might be helpful to clarify a little bit over here. If you are familiar with the musical The Lion King, right? The Lion King, he raised up Simba and is saying this is the future of the kingdom. And Mr. Jack Ma actually has fondly referred to Ali Sports as the son or the child of Alibaba. But Ali Sports itself is still an independent person. We are not really like a division of Alibaba or administratively a part of Alibaba, but we share the same DNA, which in this case is internet plus sports. Internet plus sports plus e-commerce, and the possibilities are unlimited. So I want to share with you a key strategy that may help you understand what we do and how we are looking for partnerships in the sports world and in the soccer world. Earlier this year, our CEO actually shared what's called if you are familiar with the Chinese character, the word sky. So allow me to demonstrate a little bit. Yes.
Please sing, dance, tell jokes, anything, it's fine.
So what happened is that the Chinese character Tian, so if I spread my arm and stand like that, that's the word Da, which means big, right? And if you can imagine there's something else on top of me, like horizontally going over, that'll be another stroke that completes the word Tian. So our strategy, the sky character strategy, is actually, this is internet at the very top. And this is IP. And this is the stadia, venues, platform, and everything we're talking about, the infrastructure. And one leg down, it may not be, one leg down would be the big data that Alibaba is very good at over the 17 years that's been accumulating. And the other is membership. So now you have it. Our general strategy of what we do that guide us through everything we do is the internet, infrastructure, venue, and everything, and IP-centered, and big data, supported by big data, and our membership. So everything that we do at Ali Sports will be very, very much based on this strategy. So obviously, I cannot walk very far in this static structure. And whatever we do is always going to be based on IP, the internet, the everything else. And no matter what I do, if I go do dancing, right? But it's still here. The IP is still here. The internet is still here, and my infrastructure idea and everything's still there. So when we look for partnership, as our CEO has mentioned on the September 8th, we call it partner convention, because back in September we celebrated our first year anniversary, and he chose not to call it a birthday celebration or anniversary celebration. It's going to be a partner convention. So he's calling all partners, I wouldn't say all walks of life per se, but all walks in business to join us, because this is going to be a venture. And now you're going to ask, what exactly are you going to do? The general answer, which I can get into more details with some people who may be more interested in it offline, the general guideline or general principle mission is that we are building a foundational platform for the Chinese sports economy. It sounds vague or not that specific to a lot of people. However, think about this. If we're building a deep water dock, a lot of the work is underwater, like 90% or 80% of the work is under the water. and they may not readily be seen all the time by everyone at all times. But once the dock is built, that's going to be intended to be the biggest exchange for the sports world, including soccer. And I'll get into more details a little bit later on when the opportunity is right. But that's generally the impression I want to leave you for now. It's the platform for Chinese economy in China. So we're not necessarily into the IP buying frenzy per se, but there's a reason for everything that's happening right now. So I'll stop.
Thank you, Molly. And thank you for that animated introduction to Alibaba. Rizam, as they say, follow that.
Okay.
So
I'm not
clearly there's an enormous amount of work to provide all of the facilities. China's an enormous country, and there are certain parameters already been described in terms of timeline, which is going to be difficult for the state to do alone, and therefore there presents an opportunity for the private sector to play its part. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about Soccer World, your business, and how you initially drew influences from the emergence of organizations such as the Power League in the UK to develop your soccer centers and academies in China.
Okay. So, thank you, Paul. So actually, like what Paul said, Soccer World's home is here, is in UK. That's 11 years ago. I was a student in Albany University, and what I'm studying there is the finance and investment. That's my first time to know goals. That's the goals. That's in Albany. That's goals. I have been there to play football because I'm a football crazy player in China before I come here. So when I first time to look at the facility of the goals there, I was surprised. The facility, the turf, the changing room, the shower room, everything is perfect, brilliant. In China, impossible to get such facility, at least in my time. So the first word I said is the kids in UK is so lucky, they are so happy. And I realized maybe this business model can work in China, because before I come to UK, I stay in Beijing and Shanghai. It's very difficult for us, for my friends, to find a place to play football. The facility is huge shortage in big city in China, especially in the giant cities. So I think this model definitely works in China because of the demand. So I'm trying to study it, do some research job. In 2006, I go back to China, start the business by myself. In the first 2 years, it's very hard because this business model is very new in China. Nobody understands it.
Well, you were pioneering a whole new behavior, because what I understand from the conversation we've had already is that whereas in the UK, kids accept they kick a football anywhere. There's lots of open grass. They kick a ball in the street. It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. In China, it was actually difficult to find anywhere to kick a football in public.
Right. The facility, even now, is still shortage in the cities, big cities. So that's the first demand I found from this business model. At the beginning, I think this business is quite simple, easy. So I want to try it in China. But after the first 2 years, I found it's really difficult. The most difficult thing is find the deal of the land, the rent deal of the land from the government. At that moment, we rented the land from the government. So the first job of mine in China is try to find the deal of land in China, in Shanghai. But I'm lucky. Just after 1.5 year, I got a deal from the Shanghai Sports Bureau, and also I invited the chairman of the Soccer World in UK. This guy's name is Jeremy Dodgson. He's the founder of the so-called international based in UK, in London. And I got the money as well. The money comes from Thompson. Thompson is the founder of the New Look in UK. So, okay, everything perfect. Money, land, and the business model. And also we built the center definitely based on the information, the design, the organization of football center in UK. So if you go to China, you can realize soccer world is really like Power League or girls in UK. But after half a year, we found the business model not totally different, maybe more than half different with the UK.
So the interesting thing is that whereas a lot of the goal centres and synthetic small-sized pitches in the UK are used for tournaments and leagues, in China, the vast majority of the income comes from people just looking for somewhere to kick a football.
Yeah, right.
Which is an extraordinary differential to give one a perspective of the way that the culture is having to transform.
At the beginning, at the first half year of the first center opened in Shanghai, in Pudong, our foreign partner asked us to do the league and tournament. They said, why not to organize the league and tournament? That's our product. We can have the turnover from the league and tournament. We organize it. That's a 5-a-side rebounded board league and tournament. Nobody joined it. Even some guys come to join it. They were not joined again. Why? Because the 5-a-side rebounded board league and tournament is very fast. No stop. So you need a very good, very good body, sports body, to make you continue the game. So that's the very interesting situation in China. Now, at this moment, soccer world have 25 centers over 20 cities, the biggest cities in China. So we are the biggest football center operator in China at this moment.
And to give that a context, as people understand, so you've got 25 centers now across 20 cities in China.
Yes.
I know you've got a stated ambition to open 60 centers by the end of 2017.
Yes.
And typically each center has how many pitches?
Okay, at least 5 pitches.
5 to 10 pitches
yeah,
per
the maximum
center.
is 11, 10 pitches.
And you've now got facilities where people can come and play football and let's kick a football around, but you also get into formal coaching and creating academies for children.
Yes, right. And that's the business model actually. What we want is improve the utilization of the center. So, okay, normal booking that can bring half turnover of the center, but we still need more turnover. So we are trying to organize the league and tournament, but it's not so big. And also we are trying to find some new products. So Kids Academy is coming. In China, not like in UK, there are so many clubs, professional clubs or middle professional clubs. For example, in Manchester, I know there are 700 clubs. In China, no this system. So
there isn't a regulated structure of amateur football clubs in China?
No.
There's no competition?
So we become the most professional guy to deliver the Kids Academy in China. And that brings us, at the beginning, 15% turnover, but now is 30%. In the future, we'll be achieve 50%.
It's a fascinating thing to get our head around it. We take open grass spaces for granted, as many places in the world, but because football's our national sport, there's nothing more natural than taking a football in your garden and kicking it around. So it was a real shock to me to understand that the provision of facilities on an artificial pitch basis is something that Soccerex, Soccer World, I beg your pardon, are picking up the baton on fulfilling. Thank you very much for now, Rees. We'll come back to that because I've got some more questions I want to ask you to expand on that. Charles, again, for our audience's benefit, there will be a different level of understanding of the professional game in China. The Chinese Super League currently has 16 participants. The second tier of football also has 16, and the third tier has 20. So there's a total of 52 professional football clubs in China. Are there any plans to change the league structure going forward?
Actually, that's also part of the football reform plan. We are working on it, and maybe next year we will have the so-called China Professional League. We have the 50 clubs, the top 3 tiers together to form the new league, which is separately organized by the league itself. I think that will be something new, and many things are changing because now we have the CSL company who is taking care of the CSL commercial rights, and also we are taking care of the China League, the second tier, and also the third tier, the commercial rights and also the competition. Later, all this will be organized by the new professional league.
Right.
So we are working on that, and hopefully we can get it done at the end of this year.
So I was speaking to Phil Rawlings yesterday, and he was saying that the MLS, because he is president of Orlando, it's the fixture list. They travel the most mileage of any football league in the world because they don't go on the road and play 2 or 3 games as do some other sports in the States, but they literally travel for a game and come back again. Now, clearly, with the land mass of China, trying to structure a league must be very challenging. Are you going to create regional leagues around China to minimize the geographical travel, or are you going to stay with a linear league system?
Now, I think for the professional leagues, basically next year will stay stable, something like that, and from the year 2017, then we'll have more professional clubs. First starts from the third tier, then we'll have more, and then now for the third tier we have it for the north part and the south part. So I think after that the plan is maybe we have 4 districts for the third tier, and if we have more teams, then possibly we'll have 2 regions for the second tier. So that's something is planned by the new league. It's not decided by CFA.
And I understand a lot of these plans are in their infancy, so it's very hard for you to be specific across the board. But Rhys touched on a very interesting point for us because, again, our relationship with football tends to be something that starts at home, it goes through school, and then there's a whole plethora of amateur football clubs which are very much part of the fabric of our society. Have you got plans to try and encourage the emergence of the amateur game as well and local football clubs apart from the professional game?
Yes, sure. Now we have the amateur league. Some people also say that's the 4th tier. And for the amateur league, now we give most of the rights to the regional associations. They are organizing it in their provinces. And then we have the, now this year we have 4 region games and the final game. So next year maybe we'll improve that, and they are making the plans. And also we have another one purely for the grassroots. Then we call it enjoyed game. If we translate the Chinese character directly to English, that's I love football.
Okay.
So that's another one for the grassroots.
And also, as part of the mid and long-term plans, I know that there are already enshrined a strategy to create schools with a specific focus on football in their curriculum, so that it's compulsory to play football for both boys and girls with weekly matches against other schools, something very much that for us is normal but has never been done before in China. Now, again, that's a very ambitious strategy. What's the focus on the number of those schools that you're going to be opening over the short coming time?
I think maybe one thing we should say, not never happened in China, but maybe 30 years ago, then it happens between the schools and classes. But something happened, maybe I think after the one-child policy, then it's not anymore.
So just an interesting thing culturally, sorry to interrupt you, but you mentioned the one-child policy earlier in connection with the, as maybe something to do with why there's a sort of protectionism by parents in terms of their children playing dangerous sports. Is it that linear that if you have one child, you're very much more wanting to wrap them in cotton wool and not risk them getting injured? Is there a connection between the two things?
I think now the child get more and more centered by themselves, because normally not only the parents but the grandparents will take care of the one child.
Right.
So that's something different with when we were young. So I know when we were young, then we're happy to have the football pitches and we can go there anytime we want. But now it's something for the education system, for the schools. Then they'll lock the door after school. Then students can have no more access to the football pitches or any other sports facilities in schools. Right. So I think that's something need to be changed. And I think that's also part of the plan. The government say many times the school facilities should open to the public. But I think maybe they'll do it sometime later, but they are working on it.
It's fascinating. And I think I read that the plan is to create 50,000 football-focused schools by 2025. Is that correct?
The numbers actually now. Last year it was around more than 8,000, and this year I had the number is already over 10,000, and the plan for 2020 was 20,000.
20,000 schools by 2020?
Yeah, and for 2025 there's 50,000.
50,000. So a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, well it's very exciting, and presumably there's got to be an initiative to make sure the coaches are there as well, and that that there's a sufficient level of knowledge to impart to the children who are being taught about football in school.
Mm-hmm. So that's now we need more coaches, and the plan for the coaches, the trained coaches, is to have 50,000 trained coaches or teachers in schools. So that's why I think now there are around 300 teachers in England training now, maybe for 2 or 3 months. But I think the better idea is to have the retired players.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So they have better skills, better knowledge of football.
Molly, if I come back to you, we touched on the health and safety issues that were perceived in terms of football being played in schools. And I'm also fascinated to know, firstly, whether you played football in school, because you look very athletic and you get an original presentation there. But also, what is the situation with women's football in China?
This is actually very interesting. When I was in school, I actually had the opportunity to play soccer. Even though it was compulsory or mandatory, I'm very grateful for that kind of education experience, because that got me understand a little bit about the rules and a little bit more fitness, and later on become more interested, become a sports fan, which was in the early days, which was very rare for females to be really involved. And then once I get into this sports business, I was both surprised and happy to learn that women's soccer was actually played in China a long time ago, like back in the Han Dynasty or something. And our women's football teams in China are doing, so well. Last I checked, it was ranked the 4th in the world or something like that. And of course, at Alibaba, I mentioned earlier, like Alibaba is like our parent and we're the child. That's exactly the relationship that we have. And Alibaba has this ecosystem with everything from e-commerce to finance to Alipay, everything in it. And what we're trying to do at Ali Sports is to tap into that system and seamlessly connect with that ecosystem to serve the clients and consumers. Actually, more than 50% of the consumers on the platform, e-commerce platform, are women. And also even the employees, percentage-wise, is also like more women. I remember reading somewhere in the media that Mr. Jack Ma actually once said, if women are happy, the world is happy, right? By the same token, when the women are happy, the sports world is happy. We want equal participation. So from our end, we definitely support the women's soccer movement. And even at our own company, we have soccer fields and pitches, not the real formal size, but like even the employees get into it. A lot of females are doing that as well. And so I think it's very exciting. We have quite a few initiatives in the working. I cannot particularly share anything that's already ready to be announced or anything, but there are work in place to do that in tandem with other initiatives, from the venues, building the stadiums or other schools, all these initiatives, from programs to actual academies. Those are all in the consideration and in the works. And I also would like to offer my personal congratulations to the City of Manchester on the women's soccer team's
Indeed.
accomplishment. That was quite
This very
impressive.
week, yes.
That's very impressive.
Thank you. And of course, I know that you wear an Ali Sports hat, which is a wider rainbow of activities than just football, but Ali Sports are the title sponsor of the Club World Cup, so clearly, without asking you to commit any further, it's an indication of the fact that the organisation, and indeed Jack Ma, who I know is also a significant investor in a football club in China,
yes,
that football's definitely on the radar.
Absolutely a significant sector of our business portfolio. And not just because you may not hear anything immediately right now does not mean nothing is going on. Like I said earlier, we're building a platform. A lot of the work is behind the scene or under the water. And our CEO or our company has been very clear about we're not building a fast car. So in this world of, I want to use the word frenzy only because it reminds me of, the humpback whale bubble feeding phenomenon back in Alaska, right? But it may not be the perfect analogy, but I thought for Ali Sports, the urge right now is not necessarily to jump in the bubble feeding with the rest of the humpback whales or things like that. And what we want to do is to make sure we make the right choices at the right time, at the right stage. Our spectrum is very wide. It's a full spectrum. There's nothing in sports that's excluded. And the football is really very big for us right now. And our title sponsorship is 8 years. So we do have time and opportunity to do something really significant, really make a difference in the sports world as well, especially in soccer world in that regard.
And I think it's fabulous that all three of our guests are talking about grassroots football, because the perception of Chinese football is it's taken a bit of a top-down approach to football. So although we've described the infancy of the industry, one not very glowing statistic is that already last year one Chinese Super League club managed to lose 1 billion RMB, so, which is about 100 million pounds. So it just goes to show that some things are common across the globe. It's also very interesting that from a private enterprise perspective, the opportunity for Soccer World to build out your network of facilities across China, does that mean that your typical customers' REIs are synonymous with the growing middle class in China? Because there's a cost to using your facilities.
Okay. In Soccer World, I want to divide the customer based on the product. The normal booking customer, most of them, maybe 100% of them are over 28 ages. They have the good pay from the office, and they have the good education. So that's what a little shame as well, because from Monday to Friday, most time of the weekend as well, you cannot find the young people who under 25 play football in our pitches. So that's quite a little shamed. But whatever, the guys who over 28, they definitely is our customer, and they can pay the price. And for the Kids Academy, to be honest, we have to say thanks for the government policy driven by President Xi. Because after 240, the schools, parents has paid more attention to the football. The schools will not will stop will stop the kids play football in school anymore, and the parents is going to fund some sports for kids. Why? That's connected with the economy development closely. And these guys are really the new middle class generation in China. Their concept, their philosophy has been changed a lot. So that's the reason we think, or we have the ambitious for the football business in China.
And I should say that, because you haven't blown your own trumpet in this regard, but Soccer World are the official recreational football partner of Manchester City in China.
Yes.
And you indeed have a common shareholder, I believe, as well. Is that true?
Yes, yes.
So it's a business that's got great positioning in terms of filling out. Do you have aspirations in the future? Because obviously we've heard from Charles about what the FA are doing in China, and I know that the Ministry of Education have a huge role to play as well. Do you believe that there should be a convergence at some point between private enterprise and the state initiatives?
I think the model is different, but the direction is the same. What we're doing is the financial, or we can call it, that's the sixfold business model. Because we need the model to help the company developed, also to help, how to say, the system keep working. For example, for the kids training, we are focused on the age 6 to age 12. If the business model doesn't working, I think there's nobody to do this job in China or in anywhere in the world. If that's working, so Soccer can help most of the kids from 6 to 12 get the best quality of the football training, just around their school or around their home. So that's a very good support for the system of the CFA, I think. Excellent,
excellent. As we started touching on matters of money, and football will forever be synonymous with money. As we started that little bit of banter at the beginning of the session about the television audience for the CSL worldwide versus the Premier League in China, how is the funding of professional football in China developing, Charles? And are there plans to help the second and third tier leagues to generate some of that revenue?
Now, actually, at present, the CSL get money mainly from the market. I think most people here know about the TV rights deal last year, and which is a big increase. And also, from this year, they are now making a plan to raise the price for sponsors.
Okay.
So, now CSL is paying to CFA the rights fee, but we only charge 10%.
So do the CFA sell these rights collectively on behalf of all clubs?
Not CFA, but we have the company, CSL company.
Okay, CSL do it themselves, right?
Yeah, which is a joint venture by CFA and the 16 clubs.
Right.
CFA has,
sounds familiar.
Yeah, CFA has 36% of the rights. and all the 16 clubs 4%. But that, I think that would be changed when we have the new professional league.
So the new professional league will then, so at the moment, the second and third tier football leagues have very little revenue generation because they're not, are they selling TV rights at all, the second and third tier?
Yes.
They are, okay.
I think thanks to the policy and the situation now in China, you know, last year is the first time we sold out the title sponsor and TV rights for the second tier, and this year, the beginning of this year, we sold that for the third tier. So that never happens
before
that.
Okay, so there's real progress there in terms of the top-down financial model, and clearly helping that to create a waterfall effect to the grassroots game is important, but then there's nothing that's going to substitute state initiatives, because it's obviously a massive logistical operation as well. Thank you, Charles. It's really interesting. Molly, obviously Chinese investors are now involved at Inter Milan, Espanyol, Nice, Atletico Madrid, as well as closer to home here in Manchester, and recently Aston Villa, Wolves, West Brom. There's rumours of at least 30 more Chinese billionaires waiting in the wings. How is this perceived at home in China, this sudden export of Chinese wealth to dominate European football?
That's a great question.
Oh, thank you. I knew I'd get one eventually.
Actually, from my own personal experience, I want to step out of the Alibaba, sports world for a little bit, because opinion-wise, everybody has one, right? So my interaction with people, as well as interaction with people from Soccerex, I can say from the Chinese perspective, there are both excitement and concerns. I think the same thing with the Western world. There's excitement and there are concerns. My personal view on this is I think all roads lead to Rome. If the final destination is going to be the improvement of Chinese soccer team, make my country team to, as President Xi's dreams, to qualify one, host one, and win one, I say, that's great, right? And also, every investor had their own motivation, their guidelines, which I am not privy to, and other companies may not be privy to. So I'm sure they have their reasons to do it. My only pledge in this process, after talking to some Western sports fan as well, soccer fan as well, is that when we do this, we have to be very careful about why we're doing this, because we want to be able to respect the local sentiment, because sports to me and to a lot of people is not just a thing, a piece of property to just buy up. There's a lot of culture and history and feelings. That's why football is so passionate. That's why it's the best game in the world. So we just need to be very careful about respecting the local fans. When we're investing, we know why we're investing for, hopefully serving both the purpose for China, sports, soccer, as well as the soccer fans in the region or in the country that we are heavily investing in. So I think that will be a mutual, like a win-win situation for all of us.
Thank you. So,
Paul,
yes,
sorry
please,
to
Charles,
interrupt.
please.
Here, I'd like to ask you a question.
Sure.
Because some of friends also come to us and ask if we want to invest in the Premier League clubs,
yes,
how shall we do it? And what recommendations you can give, or what procedures we should go through?
Well, I'll give you a stack of my business cards and just tell them all to phone me. It'll be fine. I think really the important thing in any transaction is you have a genuine willing seller and a genuine willing buyer. My perception of some of the early steps of foreign money coming into the English football game, and it wasn't purely Chinese, was that there were several people coming to the table and acquiring the opportunity to buy a football club, and then they were going off to try and raise the money to fund that. And it led to a number of aborted transactions over the last 10 years, which has been difficult. I think that they have to understand, anybody buying a football club has to understand their reasons for buying the club. And there are many different reasons. It can serve as a corporate investment. It can serve as a marketing tool. It can serve as a vanity tool as well. So, and those don't always end well. But I think establishing exactly why you want to buy a football club is the most important thing. then deciding if you have any geographic preference, because obviously Europe at the moment is a favored destination, but there is a price differential that goes with different leagues, and the Premier League clearly is the most expensive just because of the contracted television income. And then really it's a question of trying to eliminate as many middlemen as possible in the process. So unfortunately, too many of these chains break down because there's two agents on the Chinese side, there's two agents or intermediaries on the English side, and it ends up just being dysfunctional. So I generally will give you some of my business cards when we leave this meeting. But no, so I think for understanding the reason why you want to do it is the most important thing. And then finding a target that is suitable for you, understanding their culture. As Molly said, it's an absolutely key point that understanding the local culture and respecting it is the only way to succeed. If you go in and try and change everything and change behaviors, you're going to spend a lot of time knocking your head against a brick wall. So, but it's a great dynamic for English football and for European football. And Rees, that leads me on to a question. I hope that answers your question, Charles. It leads me on to the final question, because unbelievably we're out of time already. It's such a big subject. But this, there's been a sort of two-way trade going on in football to a certain extent. What's moved from east to west has been money thus far, and what's moved from west to east has been some players and some coaching and some know-how and some expertise. Do you see that these two things are part of the same process? In other words, Chinese investment in English and European football, along with the emergence of the game back home, or are they operating in isolation of each other? And do you think that has implications for your business and similar football-based businesses in China?
Okay. Personally, I think the money to buy the clubs in Europe, the famous clubs, make no sense. That's not a business. If talk about from the business side, based on the financial model, there's no revenue, no income, I think. So so-called business is kind of the business based on the grassroots, the foundation of the sports. We have the very clearly financial model, the cost, the revenue, the income. So I think that's the reason why so-called can survive for 10 years in China already. And also, maybe that's the benefit we get from UK, because so that's connected with your question. We learned a lot from our British partner. They bring the advanced financial system, advanced operation system, branding system, and the design, even the standard, even the building standard to China.
And I should add here, I visited one of, several I gather, of your facilities are actually on the roofs of shopping malls, because land is so hard to find in city centres, that which is quite a dramatic environment for kids to learn to play football.
Right. I think maybe most of the people here have been to Hong Kong or Shanghai, Beijing. It's impossible to find a land which is 10,000 square meters in the city town already from now. So we have to find the solution to build up the facility. We don't want to build the facilities which is far away from the city. It's impossible for the parents or for the customer to drive over 40 minutes just to play football. What's the worst is the traffic in Beijing is terrible.
Yeah.
So we have to find the most close facility for the customers, the kids or the adult. The shopping mall, that's the huge business in China as well in the last 10 years. That's a property business. So quite a lot, huge amount of the shopping mall opened in the last 10 years in China. And they have the good location. They have the good facility. I mean, it's very convenient to pass parking or to find the food or to buy something. So we choose him, become the partner. And we use the roof, the top roof, as the land to build up the facility. And the reason why we are so easy to get a deal from the shopping mall, we have to say thanks to Alibaba or Jingdong. After 2013, the e-business is booming in China. Most of the shopping mall is facing shutdown because there's no people to open shop in their
Of course.
yes. So we are the guy who can bring the customer to their.
So suddenly you're a sought-after tenant because you're bringing a new revenue stream to a shopping mall.
Yeah, right.
You're bringing footfall.
Right.
You're bringing customers who are using the other facilities there.
Right, right.
Well, the one thing I've learned from that is the next time I'm in Beijing, if I get hit by a football falling out the sky, it'll be your fault. So,
Sorry.
ladies and gentlemen, I'm really sorry that we are out of time. Clearly, it's an enormous subject. But I hope you've had some insight from our guests here, which is it's more valuable and more personal than all of the headlines we read about Chinese investment in English football clubs. And I think it's great to understand where that culture comes from and where it's going to go. So I'm really, really indebted to Charles, Molly and Therese. And if you could give them a round of applause, please, that'd be great. Thank you so much. That was really good.